Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to today's episode of Wake the Future. And this is actually going to be a part two, an accompaniment to the last episode we released, which was all around what we call our escape framework. And it's about all of the illusions that are being created by AI and our interactions with and our usage of AI. And we told you during that episode that we were going to have a part two, which is really going to be designed to kind of answer the question, so what? Now that we've identified that, what do we do about it?
All right, so as a refresher, the escape framework stands for ease, speed, certainty, authorship, progress, and expertise. So we're going to put escape through kind of a different lens as we talk about this so what, and then we're going to go through each one of these six and really talk about what can you do about this? Make it super practical and super relevant for all of you.
So just as a reminder, as Erica goes through all of those 6 different letters that form this brilliant acronym that you created, basically what we're talking about here is that all 6 of those things are illusions that are being created or that are being sort of played upon by our interaction with AI. And so ultimately those illusions can become intoxicants. I mentioned that several times in the last episode. And it's the idea that if it becomes so alluring, for example, that something becomes so easy or so quick, then we continually do it until we get caught in kind of like a doom loop. So today we want to talk about how can we start to address this. Now look, you and I both know this. A lot of these topics we talk about, it's almost impossible for us to get up here and while we're telling people we want to help them, most of these things don't have just like a solution. There's no panacea. There's no enterprise solution here. This really is about just sort of reframing our thinking a little bit so we can be a little bit better prepared for this. And also in turn, not just help ourselves at work, but help ourselves at home, in our lives, and help our kids.
And this isn't doing a full 180.
No.
And this is what I tell people, even in presentations, a lot of these are such simple mindset shifts that just like any other daily practice, whether it's fitness or like dietary guidelines, it's the same thing. Like when you're working out that muscle, to just commit to a daily practice of a lot of the things that we're going to go through in this episode.
Yeah, a lot of this is really just about getting your head screwed on right, making sure that you are in the right mindset, the right fitness cognitively to be able to approach the future the right way. A lot of this is not negative. When we talk about all of these elements of AI and a future of AI, a lot of things will become easier. A lot of things will become faster. A lot of things will become more certain. Those are all good things, but if we get caught in the trap or the illusion that it's all going to be all of that all of the time, it leads to the pitfalls we outlined in the last episode. So I go back to something which was a concept that I kind of created and started to present to big groups about and actually gave a few keynotes about, called escape velocity. And this happened around the pandemic. We had the circumstances of the pandemic, which was a disaster. It basically threw everything out of whack. Every business that we deal with, our own business, everyone's life, it got completely flipped on its head. And that was in 2020, so we're talking about 6 years ago. And at the time, I remember a lot of our clients were coming to us and they were like, help us navigate through this. How can we understand where the future is going if all of our assumptions have just been thrown out the window by something like a pandemic? And of course, at the time, to get nerdy for a second, we basically said this is an example of why you can't engage just exclusively in what's called scenario planning. For those of you not in the industry, basically what that means is coming up with a best case, a worst case, and a mid-case scenario to plan for the future. You get something like a pandemic and everything gets thrown out of whack. And at the time, I was thinking that one of the best ways that we can position people and companies to be successful in the future is to teach them the concept of escape velocity. What we do, and
coming out of physics.
Yeah, what we've historically done, not just in this case, but you and I do this all the time. We borrow these concepts from science because they're great metaphors for what we're trying to teach, and it actually simplifies the concept. Escape velocity, borrowed from physics and astronomy, is basically the idea that you can travel at a rapid enough rate of speed to escape the gravitational pull of a larger object. And what's interesting about that is that we were saying in the context of the pandemic that you have to achieve escape velocity to escape the old way of doing business. That was this megalithic thing, like this big planet. And if you were a ship or a moon that wanted to pull out of that gravitational orbit, you had to think very differently about the future because all of our assumptions went out the window. Now, fast forward to today, Erica comes up with this brilliant escape framework for what's happening with the future of AI. And I thought to myself, we have to apply the escape velocity concept to escape. And the reason for that is because now, and stick with me for a second.
See, you love the acronyms.
You
secretly love
listen,
the acronyms.
I'm a nerd too,
you
man.
You can knock them, but you love
no,
the
acronyms.
I
knock them because, they're ridiculous. But, they're still so utilitarian. So, basically, applying it here, like I said, I used to think about escape velocity as a concept where we're trying to escape like a tether, like a large anchor, like a planet. What I'm thinking here is that where we're going with AI, because it's happening so quickly, the innovation is happening so quickly, the utilization of it in every aspect of our life and at work is happening so quickly, that I don't view it as like a planet or an anchor. I view it more as like a black hole, like a vortex. And the idea is that if we don't achieve escape velocity very soon, which basically means retraining our brains and thinking differently, then we're going to get caught in this never-ending cycle, this spin cycle that is effectively the black hole of. And we have another episode that we released not too long ago, kind of about this concept called the AI Treadmill. Yeah. So if you want to get off the AI treadmill, or you want to achieve enough escape velocity to escape the gravitational pull of that black hole, you have to start retraining your mind. So we have to figure out, how can we achieve escape velocity?
What I think we should do is to take the whole concept of escape velocity, which really is about, like, if you view it as a rocket ship, it's propelling us forward.
Yeah.
It's like, how can we actually, like, with enough like energy and thrust, get to the next? So
I'll show you thrust.
No, you have to edit that out. You cannot keep that in there.
Why? You're my business partner and my wife.
So bad. Oh my God. So
no, keep going.
Let's go. Let's go through. I knew it. I knew when I said that word. Oh my God. Okay. So let's go through each one of the 6.
Okay.
And are you blushing now?
No, I'm not blushing.
Oh, I thought
I'm waiting for you to read.
Let's go through each one of the
You're definitely blushing, though. I got you on that one, didn't I? It's not getting edited out. Just like our cats don't get edited out. Go.
Let's go through each one of these 6 and then think of kind of what the antidote for each one is. So let's take the first one, ease. And again, hopefully all of you watched the episode that preceded this, but each one came with its complementary psychological debt. So it's ease, which relates directly to cognitive debt. And I think the antidote here, again, to achieve escape velocity, is deliberate friction, right?
Yeah.
Friction is being removed from the system. And we even hear stories of like young people, like Gen Zers, wanting friction back in their products, that we have eliminated so much friction that like they still want to wrestle with an idea, to have some sense of ownership. And the companies, I think, that are getting it right are the ones that are actually being proactive in designing friction in a deliberate way.
First of all, I'll not only show you thrust, I'll also show you friction. Sorry, low-hanging fruit. Come on now. I mean, we gotta do this.
This has become so embarrassing.
No, it's not embarrassing at all. Sorry, her dad watches these too. Sorry, man. I had to. You would have done the same thing.
What?
No, not to you, to somebody else. Anyway, I digress. The interesting thing about this is that we were talking not too long ago about how all of these things, ease, speed, certainty, authorship, progress, expertise, and you could add descriptors, is all about removing friction from the equation in terms of everything that we're doing. It's no different, in my opinion, than all the algorithms that have been there for a long time now that get increasingly advanced, that basically save us time, predict what we need. Everything, it goes back to this Rosie the robot kind of philosophy that like we just can say something and it happens. We want something, it materializes. What's happening, to your point, is that people are starting to miss having some of that. Because if you take away all friction, what you're really taking away is all decision points. And when you take away all decision points, I think life starts to feel almost too easy. And you start to actually internalize that and feel that. That's an issue for us. It's an issue for our kids. So you're talking about this funny term that I saw online not too long ago, friction maxing. Everything in Gen Z's world now and Gen Alpha is about maxing. Looks maxing, smell maxing. I mean, these are things I viscerally believe in. And then friction maxing, which clearly I also believe in based on my previous comments. But the fact of the matter is that It's all about, when I heard this term, I laughed at it, and then I told Erica, and we both had a laugh, but then I thought about it. I'm like, this is a real phenomenon that's starting to brew, where people are like, I need to have more agency over what's going on around me. I need to make my own decisions. So to that extent, when we think about ease or the cognitive debt, the antidote is, how do we reintroduce deliberate friction, or phrased another way, how do we reintroduce our own decision points into what we're doing at work, what we're doing at home, and how do we build that discipline into what our kids are doing?
Even having a sparring partner, right? Because we've talked before about how AI is such a sycophant, and it's like, oh, Erica, that was such a great idea, and I'm like, no, it wasn't. I was asking it like the most like basic question ever, and it's like, I think more people are craving that like act of being challenged, where they're like, all right, enough. Like, I get it. Stop saying everything to appease me. And again, for Gen Z in particular, where so much of their life now is consumed by AI, a lot of them, right? We talk about trend and counter trend. That counter trend is very powerful. A lot of them are like, F AI. Like, I don't want to deal with this anymore. Like, there is something in the like uniqueness and authenticity of that human interaction.
Yes. And you and I mean, you and I live this. You and I are each other's sounding boards, and we give each other very honest feedback. And oftentimes we're like, no, what the F are you talking about? Like, be quiet. You know, it's like, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. You and I both need to hear that sometimes, because then
I mean, I actually don't ever need to hear that, but
well, I mean, sometimes you do need to hear it. But, you know, look.
I just say that to you.
Look, the fact of the matter is that when you have to get into the discipline of having people around you, that not only are going to give you honest feedback, but also just allow you to sharpen that muscle, like a sparring partner, like you're talking about. So think about it as sharpening your cognitive muscles.
And to do it with yourself.
Yes.
It's like to then hit the pause button and say, like, very deliberately, like, if AI is giving me this answer, can I even defend any of the human thinking behind it? Keep hammering this point home in almost every episode, and I think it underpins all 6 of these, which is question everything, and it cannot just happen like in the working hours of 9 to 5. It has to be that ongoing discipline, and to have your children regularly question all of the answers that they are given, challenge assumptions, not take anything at face value. So let's go to the next one.
Yeah, let's go to the next one. The next one is S for speed, which, you know, basically we talk there about the antidote, or one of the antidotes potentially being pausing or slowness. The idea that we take our time thinking about something, or, you know, just doing something, engaging in an activity, with the idea being that not everything has to be done instantly. Not everything has to be a hack. I feel very passionately about this one. We talked about it in the first installment of this 2-part episode here. When it comes to learning and education with kids, the idea that there are apps now being marketed to kids and funneled through teachers who are actually believing that these are useful tools. And, you know, look, I don't want to say everything's like an extreme. It's not black or white. Some of these tools are extremely useful if used appropriately and in a measured way. But when you start to market tools through teachers, it's almost like a pharmaceutical company peddling pharmaceuticals through doctors to the end consumer.
Like how our son now sings the Sky Rizzy commercial.
Right. These apps, and many of you are familiar with what I'm talking about, are being pushed to help create cognitive shortcuts, time hacks, and heuristics for kids. How do we take all of these really long books or texts or concepts and presentations and distill them down into like a 1-page graphic? Here's the thing. We do that in the corporate world sometimes. A lot of people do. They're like, how do we create this an infographic based on all this information? We do not want to teach our children, in my opinion, and I feel very strongly about this, we don't want to teach our children to think that way about everything. Because if everything becomes a shortcut and they're bored reading a book and they're bored looking at a presentation, what's going to happen when things do invariably slow down at points as they enter the real world? They're not going to be able to function.
Oh yeah, it's the convenience sphere and the immediacy effect on steroids.
Yes.
And it used to be, right, when like you would have to be more deliberate in your time. Or you would be like, okay, I'm not going to know this until I wake up in the morning.
Right.
Or you would actually be told, you know what? Wrestle with it internally, think about it, sleep on it, and when you wake up in the morning, maybe you'll have some clarity.
Yeah.
Now we don't even allow ourselves to have that thinking time, like that mental digestion that happens. It's kind of like the brainwashing in a good way that happens when we sleep. Now it's like, I need to know immediately. And that is what AI solves for, or I need to get it done right now. Right. There is no moment of
pause. And again,
pause.
there's no, it's not either or. Like sometimes that's a great thing. It's a great thing to have a tool at your disposal when you are in a rush,
yes,
or you have
eight
things you need to do. It's an and. But generally speaking, the solution, or the beginning of a solution towards the illusion of speed leading to sort of cognitive distress, if we want to continue to train those cognitive muscles, is to occasionally engage in the discipline of pausing, slowing down, and it's okay to occasionally be bored. It's okay for us to be bored at work. It's okay for our kids to be bored in life.
We talked about this in the 4 paradoxes when it came to the future of education. And that is what happens neurologically and to our ability to process and synthesize information when we physically hold a writing object.
Yeah.
Like a pen, a pencil, whatever it is. And we write by hand. So something even so simple that all of you can do is just grab a piece of paper, grab a pencil, and if you have a thought, just jot it down. It's not a prompt. It's just a thought.
Right.
And write it and keep, whether it's a journal, a notebook, I don't care what it is, but just the act of putting pen to paper, what that does to our cognitive process is so powerful.
But the research has indicated for a long time how much of an impact that has on information processing.
Yes.
And look, we do this consciously with our son when we travel. When we travel, because he's not on screens, he has a journal or like a little book that he will either write in or do art in. And because he has that with him, he actually writes down experiences that he's had when we're on the road, and he internalizes them, and they form more crystallized memories. This is a case study of one, but the thing is when you...
But I'm a physical note taker. In a meeting, I still physically take notes because anytime I'm typing it into my computer, I don't remember it.
The antidote here, in a way, is just being okay, like doing that in a work environment, in a learning environment, and in a life environment. It matters in all three. The third that we're going to talk about is the C for certainty. And the antidote here is a very simple one. It's voluntary ambiguity. It's the idea that it is okay sometimes, and we have to retrain ourselves to understand this, to not know the answer or the full answer all the time. And sometimes in the ambiguity lies the ability to critically think and to continue to sharpen our muscle to solve problems we've never been faced with before. That is a key component, in my opinion, of intelligence.
And to have open-ended questions that just invite exploration.
Absolutely.
So at home with your kids, it could be, how might we do this differently? Same can be said in a work environment. What would it look like if? What if this was the case? And it could be the complete opposite of some assumption you make, and there's no clear-cut answer at the end of it. And you're not deferring to AI to be like an imagination partner with you. And then even saying, you know what? I don't know. And having that be a valid answer in and of itself.
Right.
Where it used to be that was fine. And then you would go and you would research it, or you would kind of think on it, and you would form a hypothesis or a point of view or an opinion. Now it's like, I don't know. Oh, good. Now I can figure it out in about 1.2 seconds.
This actually is a great linkage to the next one, which is authorship. So let's talk about them both at the same time. Because, when we were growing up, and certainly this applies to when our parents and grandparents were growing up, there was a real emphasis put on the research process when you were a student. How do you get your information?
The Dewey Decimal System.
All of those things. And we look back on that, and we fast forward to today, and we're like, man, if we only had the internet, and we only had all of these other tools at our disposal, AI, I mean, all of the hours and days that we wasted doing all those things, those could have gone away.
It's like when Joey from Friends found $50 in his pocket, and he could only afford one encyclopedia, so he bought V. And then all of his knowledge was on.
Well, he couldn't. It's not that he could afford one encyclopedia. He could only afford one volume of the encyclopedia. So he bought one volume.
He bought one volume of the encyclopedia.
So he became an expert on V. And of course, how many times are we going to cite Joey as an example of intellectual brilliance here?
Show ever.
But here's the thing. If you don't want to turn into Joey, we have to start thinking about all of these things.
Yeah, so, you know about Vesuvius and vivisections.
Vivisections, Vesuvius. Wow. So we think about the combination of C and A, and we had this really wieldy research process that we and all of our preceding generations had to go through. And it was considered part of learning. It was part of our cognitive development. And now you can short circuit that. You can hack that. There is no research process. So the question is, in an era of advanced search, in an era of AI, in an era where the internet is ubiquitous and these tools are everywhere, is something wrong with the fact that we can get answers quickly with what we perceive to be certainty, and then we basically assign our own authorship to them? We basically are like, okay, I did the research, let me stamp my name on it. That not only is leading to an issue in the learning environment of plagiarism, and this is one of the biggest things that's been publicized about the proliferation of AI in learning, but also just in our own minds. If we're not engaging in that disciplined research process, is that short-circuiting our ability to actually figure out how to work through problems as we go through life?
Well, authorship is the interesting one because authorship is the illusion and authorship is the antidote, because it is so muddled and like confusing as to who or what is the originator of that thinking. Then the antidote to it is true authorship. It's in the reclaiming of your own voice. It is writing something. And again, I go back to the point about physically picking up a pen and writing it down. And I think we all need to rediscover our originality and what our unique voice is. And we did the episode on sameness and the fact that a lot of outputs are now in a similar cadence. People talk about the words that AI spits out, and a lot of them then become very similar. Although I will argue, they say one of them is catalyst, and I love talking about things as catalysts for like the last 15 years. So AI, I think, stole that from me. I think the more that we can even just, again, a daily simple practice of just writing. It doesn't you don't have to write a novel. It could be 2 to 3 things, but it still has to be uniquely you. And I think the more that you can get into that repetitive process, you can start reclaiming your voice so that the authorship illusion doesn't happen. You're like, no, clearly this sounds like me. The problem is we don't know what sounds like us anymore.
Right. And so it really is about the recovery and the preservation of your own voice. And what's interesting, and then I want to move on from this one, is in part 1 of this episode, we talked about a little bit about the process of Erica writing her book as an example. And I think that one of the things that's already starting to shift is that the book writing process used to be that the human, or the human's ghostwriter, in some cases, would basically dump all the content, would be the writer, and then you'd go to an editor, an outside source to kind of clean it up.
In my case, it was you.
And
so
that
thank
was
you.
me. And I'm not trained as an editor, but I think I cut my teeth pretty well
and
on
my
that
publisher.
book. But what's happening now in real time is that model is flipping. So we are deferring artificial intelligence to basically take primary authorship over something, and then we're turning ourselves into the editor. We're like, okay, I like what AI put together, but there are some things that are obviously AI. Let me edit those out. There are things I want to tweak. Let me do that. But the originator should be the originator, not the editor, and we're flipping that model on its head. So to reclaim authorship, we have to really think about this. P is for progress. I think we would analogize this most to the AI treadmill, which is the idea that we think we're making progress at all times, but ultimately are we just moving at a faster rate of speed and still staying stuck in place? The AI treadmill episode, I encourage all of you to check it out if you haven't done so already.
It's all around human decision making, and the more that we defer that decision making to AI, we lose sight of really again how we have to strength train that muscle.
Right.
And I think the more that we can be mindful and jot down every time you make a decision independently, when you actually have a thought and you're not prompting AI with it. And then over time, after you've been tracking this, be like, oh, wow, my judgment in assessing this situation started getting a lot better because I wasn't deferring my thinking to AI. And that's why I say a lot of these things are not difficult. It just really takes a daily commitment to being mindful over how we are using these things.
Absolutely.
It could be the smallest decision that we are overriding, but then we have to give ourselves credit for that.
That leads us into the last one, which is expertise, E for expertise. This also links up with a lot of the things we just talked about. In fact, I would say that in some ways, those first 5 roll right into 6. And
They
it's
do.
with it, if we over rely on all of these aspects of artificial intelligence and we fall victim to these illusions, is the ultimate illusion that we have expertise when in reality we don't. We've just been using a tool really effectively, or at least as a shortcut. And an example of that, again, goes back to a previous concept in an episode, which I encourage all of you to check out, which we call musical chairs. And musical chairs, if I can summarize it in 5 to 10 seconds, is really the idea that, you know, there are all these forecasts about whether or not AI is going to replace huge swaths of the knowledge economy. Some people think that's overblown and not many people are going to lose their jobs. Wherever you fall on that continuum, I think the reality is that some jobs are going to be lost. And in a worst case scenario, many jobs are going to be lost. But even as some jobs are lost, chairs are going to get pulled. And let's say you start with 20 chairs, you might go down to 18 chairs. And what people are going to reflexively do, and they're already starting to do, is they're trying to figure out what's that lane I should be in, about how much I use AI to prove that I'm contemporary and worth keeping on board, versus how much do I use AI, yikes, it's doing most of my job, I'm now dispensable. So there is a real expertise vacuum here, because people, I think at the end of the day, have to sell themselves on their value and on their expertise. So we really have to think very carefully on, are we being given an illusion of expertise because of over-reliance on a technology which is giving us all the answers? They may not be the right answers. And even if they are the right answers, we didn't necessarily generate them. So the question is, how do we retain our usefulness and our humanity? How do we strengthen those cognitive muscles?
We can feign expertise very well in the written word, but in the articulation of what it is that we know, then that becomes the ultimate test.
Yeah.
So it's like, we can cut and paste from AI, we can put it into a LinkedIn post, we can put it into a report, we can even dump it into a slide deck and put it into our speaking notes. But if you have nothing in front of you and you are tasked with actually being an expert in something, how well can you defend your point of view? How well do you actually know your facts? So I think even a simple exercise, if everyone even goes around the table and they're sharing something that they know, but even in their own head, they're like, is this my thought, right? It goes back to authorship, ease, a lot of these things where it's like, can I even articulate this? And that becomes a challenge. Even bringing back the art of debate, having even a coworker, right? It could be interesting for companies to set aside, you know, a little bit of time each week where you have a partner where like you're kind of intellectually sparring with them.
Yeah.
It's one of the things that keeps us
But
on
this
our
is the
toes,
second time,
because it's what we do.
this is the second time you brought up the sparring kind of analogy, and it's so accurate. This is one of the problems with contemporary college. And one of the people are complaining that colleges were really, universities were designed to be these almost arenas for ideological discourse and debate, and they've turned into basically, you know, singular thinking. And if you don't agree with what everyone else thinks, you're kind of ostracized.
Echo chambers of cancel
They're
culture.
becoming echo chambers. And the fact is, like, if we want to get back to a place where we're training our people, or training our kids, training our future workers and employees, training ourselves to be more adaptable in this kind of future, we need to have that discourse. We need to have that debate. We need to spar. This is all so vitally important. We have these 6 illusions. E for ease. The antidote is deliberate friction. S for speed. The antidote is in the pausing and in slowness, and it's okay to be bored. C for certainty. The antidote is voluntary ambiguity. A is authorship. The antidote is recovery and preservation of your own unique voice. P is progress. The antidote is developmental measurement. And E is expertise. The antidote is human friction on purpose. And what I want to say, 2 quick things. This is kind of the beginning of a user manual or a roadmap. We're not experts on any of this. We are not sitting here trying to be prescriptive. We're just saying we understand all of this, just like you do, and we're trying to get our heads around it. And hopefully we're giving everyone a framework and a set of tools to start navigating this. And it might evolve in the next few years, but where we are today, we need a little bit of a user manual, a user guide. So that's what this is. And the last thing I want to say is that when you take all 6 of these things in aggregate, what you're really talking about is the reclamation or the rebuilding of what I call EQ, or emotional intelligence. It's one of the things that we see sorely lacking in a lot of Gen Zs, and it's not their fault. They're the byproduct of a lot of circumstances. And if we want to raise the next generation of kids, Gen Alphas like our son, and we all want to collectively raise our EQ in a technological era, it's going to require us to recognize these illusions and start dealing with them. And it is just as easy as, in our case, having the three of us as mother, father, and son sit around a table and talk through some of these things, reclaim our voice, have these conversations, have ideological debates and discourse, spar with each other a little bit, and hopefully make each other a little bit better in the process.
And it comes down, honestly, to why we built and created Wake the Future in the first place, which is really about bringing common sense back to today's uncommon times. So thank you for joining today's episode. Make sure to like, follow, and subscribe for more. We'll see you next Tuesday. If you enjoyed today's conversation, like, follow, and subscribe to stay ahead of what's next. I'm Erica Orange.
And I'm Jared Weiner. Thanks for waking the future with us. We'll see you next time.